Get a check of your top stories this morning. Right now, investigators are searching for a man who they believe kidnapped and assaulted a child inside of his car.
Charging documents say DNA evidence linked Danilo Bolden to the crime. This happened in Minneapolis back in October. The 12-year-old victim told investigators she was thrown into a car, sexually assaulted, and then eventually let go. Bolden not in custody. He may be unhoused, living somewhere in Minneapolis. Meanwhile, over in St. Paul, police arrested 2 minors after a standoff ended peacefully.
Police and a SWAT team spent hours at this apartment complex on Lexington Avenue yesterday morning. They were responding to several reports of gunfire inside the building. It was a tense situation. It forced residents out of their homes and shut down the surrounding streets.
When there's gunplay, when there's shots fired, we don't know what's happening inside, if there's victims or if the officer is going to be shot at. We don't know any of that. We depend on our training.
As of right now, no charges against those 2 minors. And a familiar phone scam is targeting grandparents. It's now back, but this time it's back with a new twist.
So the St. Louis County Sheriff's Office says scammers claim to be a relative, typically a grandchild who's in jail. However, instead of requesting money be sent to them, the scammers are now showing up at victims' homes to collect. Investigators say some people in Britt, Ely, and Hibbing have already fallen victim. They also released a description of a vehicle and person they believe was involved in that Hibbing incident. So here we are now into week 4 of the DFL boycott in the Minnesota House, and state Republicans say enough is enough. And this is why they've launched an effort to recall all 66 House Democrats for not showing up to work.
Pauline Lee joining us live at the state capitol this morning with a closer look at this process and whether, Pauline, that's even possible to do a recall.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, 66 people is a lot of people to recall, I should say. The Minnesota Constitution does pave the way for it. It's a very lengthy process. It's never been successful in Minnesota state history, but it is possible. And Minnesota GOP leaders say they plan to submit the necessary documents to the Secretary of State's office by next week. So let's take a closer look at the process here. Here's what's needed. State law requires 25 voters to sign on to the proposed recall petition for each seat being recalled before it's submitted and the process begins. Secretary of State's office reviews the petitions, and if it determines that they're valid, the Supreme Court ultimately determines if they meet the constitutional and statutory grounds for a recall. Process in all, from start to finish, can take as long as 10 months, but party leaders are confident petitions will advance.
Minnesotans deserve representation in their legislature. They deserve legislators who will go to work, and I am looking forward to Minnesotans speaking loud and clear, telling their legislators to get to work.
Now, a DFL party spokesperson said in a statement, Republicans have wasted weeks trying to overturn an election that they lost so that they can seize power that Minnesotans didn't give them at the ballot box. This stunt shows how desperate they have become after the courts struck down their unlawful power grab and ruled that Representative Tabke was duly elected by Shakopee voters. Now, in the past, there have been 14 recall petitions filed here in the state, and that's for all kinds of state leaders, whether it's lawmakers, the governor, Secretary of State's office. Again, none have been successful because they have all been dismissed by the Minnesota Supreme Court before any recall election could take place. But again, the Republican leaders, they do say they've now had enough signatures for about half of those people that they want to recall, guys.
Okay. Well, it'll certainly get a lot of attention.
Pauline, just bigger picture here, because we were talking during your live shot. Lawmakers still have to balance a budget during this session, right?
Right, and they haven't gotten anything done. So all of the meetings that they've been having, Republicans have been having, they have just been having them, but they haven't been able to pass any legislations, any bills. They haven't been able to come up with a budget which they need to do. So no work is getting done, or has been getting done, for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Okay, and we'll see when it does.
All right, Pauline, thank you. We appreciate the update. Heads up tonight, you are invited to town hall houses by the Minnesota House of People of Color and Indigenous Caucus. This is known as Posse. So they're going to focus their attention on how the 2025 legislative session is going so far. Well, I think we just kind of got an update on how it's going so far. Posse will also address how they believe House Republicans are hurting historically underserved communities. This town hall takes place from 5:30 to 7 p.m. tonight. This is in St. Paul at the Jim Lee Rec Center gym. The address, it is on your screen. You can also watch it live. That's on the Posse Caucus Facebook page. And a heads up for those of you looking to launch a marijuana business in Minnesota, the Office of Cannabis Management will start accepting license applications from February 18th through March 14th. The office will accept applications from verified social equity applicants and from anyone looking to start a business related to cannabis. Applicants will then be put into a series of lottery drawings with priority to social equity applicants. The office expects those lotteries to start around May or June.
So let's take it back to national news here, because as many of you know, President Trump has been making good on many of his promises from the campaign trail, his immigration policies, the efforts to try to dismantle the Department of Education. So we wanted to give you a quick rundown of some of the latest news that's coming out of the administration this week. Now, for one, starting Friday, workers with the agency that's responsible for delivering humanitarian aid overseas will be put on leave. So that's USAID. Now, anyone working outside of the U.S. has been ordered to return home within 30 days. President John F. Kennedy established USAID during the Cold War. And President Trump is also planning widespread layoffs among the federal workforce. He has offered federal employees a buyout if they resign by tomorrow. But now two administration officials say that those that don't resign will still be out of a job. As of right now, 20,000 federal workers have accepted the offer, which is about 1% of the federal workforce. Meanwhile, in the 2 weeks since the president took office, the Department of Homeland Security says that they've arrested more than 8,700 immigrants and deported nearly 6,000 people from 121 countries. Agency said that the alleged violators face charges including homicide, human trafficking, and drug offenses. The Trump White House has also started flying migrant detainees to the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Now, Trump directed his administration to detain 30,000 high-priority unauthorized immigrants with criminal records. But the president is facing legal challenges for many of his orders. For instance, doctors are suing multiple federal agencies over their removal of public health information from their websites. Now, this is to obey Trump's order to roll back DEI initiatives. Now, the president has targeted websites for what he calls, quote, gender ideology extremism. And the president himself, he faces a lawsuit regarding his executive order banning gender-affirming care for anyone 19 years old and under. This order claims that it is preventing, quote, chemical and surgical mutilation of children. The lawsuit comes from several advocacy groups and claims to be filed on behalf of a group of transgender adults, adolescents, and their families.